don't know if it's because I was weaned on Treasure Planet as a child, or the endless consumption of snowboarding and skateboarding games, but something about riding boards just feels so damn cool. Perhaps it's the simplistic design catering to our caveman brains, or the fact that you have full access to your arms and body, unlike other mounted vehicles. When revamping my game, I knew the old horse feature I previously had wouldn't cut it, as it doesn't mesh well with the grappling and style the new Vision was going for. I set off to test out a board vehicle prototype, and surprisingly, my very first basic attempt turned out really nice. The board actually accompanied the grapple quite well, being able to perform quick turns and opening up other potential movement possibilities. Using blend trees for how fast the player was going, it will stand or crouch depending on the speed, and lean left or right to stabilize with input. Even the first early prototype was received extremely well, and it was nice to see it was going in the right direction. I modeled a new board in Blender, and gave it some cute little spinners in the engine that rev up the faster you go, and slow down while drifting. For the effects, I have flames in the engine, and 2 lift points underneath the board. The lifts have more spinners with propulsion, and will emit a further blast of energy when jumping. There is also a bit of heat distortion under the board, which helps sell the hover effect. There still needs some adjustments to the effects for where the ground is affected, but I will likely make it so it pushes the ground or water, similar to a helicopter landing. I sat on this for a while working on other parts of the game, deluding myself into thinking it can merely be a snowboard, and that I'd never have to worry about making it actually hover off the ground. But I stopped, or maybe started taking crazy pills, and forced myself to set some time aside to make this baby fly. Now this task was quite daunting to me, as I sort of have the board superficially set up as the character, and a lot of logic to have him suspended above the ground conflicts with the board setup. To achieve my desired outcome, I experimented using a force that pushes the player upward and stops at a certain threshold. While this was sort of hovering, it was far too wobbly as you would bounce up and down instead of gliding at a desired height. To fix this, I checked the desired height to the current height, then adjust the force to the difference. For further polish, I then check the vertical velocity and apply a damping force, which adds extra smoothing. The hovering works in a way where it can be eased in and out, so while grappling you can make tighter scrapes across the ground, or dip down on hard landings. As hovering allows more smooth traversal over terrain, I align the board with the normal below it, as long as it's within distance. There is also extra calculations that check the player's orientation, and will adjust the input and speed accordingly, sort of like how planet walking works in games like Mario Galaxy. This allows for very smooth transitions and control, while preventing the board from getting stuck. And you know what else it allows for? Yes, that's right. With functional half-pipes in your game, how could you not transform it into Tony Hawk Pro Skater? I added a jump button to the board which crouches down when held, and boosts you up on release. While in the air, you can also perform a trick by holding the grab button. I don't want this to be a feature the player feels they're forced to use, so we'll probably only award small bonuses such as a speed burst when landing, or a short opportunistic buff. I'm also considering having some sort of optional side content similar to something like Spyro's skate levels, where you can test your hoverboarding skills and complete challenges catered to the board. These would have cosmetic rewards and follow the story of other legendary board riders. With the base features finished for the board, I will probably have occasional polish and additions in the tricks in combat. For example, right now when you exit the board, it shoots off as a projectile that explodes on impact. On the Withersworn Discord, someone even dared to suggest grappling onto the projectile, which had some pretty hilarious results, and it'll be interesting to see what other ideas people come up with. To balance the hoverboard in combat, I'm thinking something like a more common Kirby era Dragon or Hydra mount, where you collect pieces to summon it if desired, and these would generate as you attack. As combat develops, I think there will be other opportunities to use the board, like deploying it as a shield or weapon. There will also be more opportunities for it, as I added what every board longs for. I'd assumed rail grinding would have been a simple addition, but surprisingly there were next to no rail grinding resources that I could find. Like some medieval pilgrim, I had to build my own from scratch, and set out on my quest for the Holy Rail. There are a lot of tools and resources out there to build splines, so I won't get too much into that, but it pretty much creates a line between 2 points, aka tangents. To detect nearby rails, I check an area around the character for rail-tagged objects, and it calculates the nearest point on the spline. This tangent holds valuable data, as comparing it to the player and input can provide information like which direction you will go, and which input will speed you up or slow you down. To initiate the rail grind, you just have to fall onto it, and the player's position and rotation will be locked to the spline. There is a slightly forgiving hitbox to initiate this, as it's not magnetic like some games where your jumps always have a set rail landing. For even more precise control, you can use your gap close input to grapple directly onto the nearest rail point. While starting the rail gives a burst of speed, the rail also builds up acceleration and deceleration depending on your input direction, relative to the direction you're traveling in. If fully decelerated and still braking, you'll flip directions, and look stylish while doing so. I was also debating on having the rail balancing some games have, but feel it might conflict with aiming and shooting, so may just keep it as is so you can focus on combat. And as combat is developed, I think there will be some style opportunities for the rail attacks, and being able to have enemies use it as well will open up the gameplay more. At long last, with the hoverboard and rails fleshed out, Withersworn is now officially an extreme sports game. I'm excited to have these features implemented as they pair so well with the flow and mobility of the character. I think when coupled with the combat and movement, the potential future for the game has increased exponentially. I was going to make this devlog cover every update since last video, but as that would be 1 billion hours long, I will release it in shorter, more focused, and more frequent topics in future videos. Thank you for watching, and please remember to subscribe to the channel, follow on Twitter, or X, and wishlist Withersworn on Steam to follow along and support development. See you next time.